you're in. So good morning, good evening, whatever. Yes, I was talking to Catherine. I'm a translator, a medical translator. I have started working for the language industry more than 15 years ago. And it's been more than 10 that we have been working exclusively as medical translators. I started a company in 2015, and our focus is mainly medicine and life sciences. So we ended up in this interesting world that we didn't know. Here we are. So now we're trying to move a little bit and trying to change just from the core or the traditional, localization or translation related activities to activities that are more related to communication in general. That's why we started engaging with Catherine and other people in these kind of conversations to see if we can move the needle a little bit or not in the system as it is right now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura, for the short introduction. And how did Claudia come into play? Claudia, let us know.
Oh, okay. Well, as I told you before, I decided I wanted to be a translator when I was 15. So I had it like very clear in my mind that it was language. And but
sorry, give me someone
yeah,
is not muted here, and I hear some noises in the background. Is that Islani? All right, now it's better. Great. Sorry, Claudia. No.
All right, no problem. And although I always had it in my mind that it was always about language, I discovered like later on that I really enjoyed translating medical stuff, that it was super interesting, that I wanted to read more on my own and investigate more and just sparked my curiosity. So I started specializing in it. I started, the very first course actually that I did was with Pablo Muguerza, like more than a decade ago, about clinical trials, and I realized that I like that. And I mostly have a lot of experience translating patents, which sometimes have some clinical trial stuff there, like like pieces of the protocol sometimes in the examples of the patent. So it was very useful. And then I started specializing more and more courses, and I decided to do the medical and healthcare translation masters at Universidad Jaume I, that is in Spain, which I think it was like a great experience, and it really gave me a lot of material to work on and to improve my medical knowledge.
Wonderful. And now you are one of my dear members, also as a volunteer translator for my book. So that's how I got to know Claudia. And when I asked Laura if she would be up for this interview or this MedTalk today, then she asked if we could invite Claudia as well, because we're just the chemics are really good here, and I see a lot of faces here too. Now let's just dig deep into the topic. Laura, Claudia, where do you come from? What is your aim? Why do you want to, or which needles do you want to move? And how do you want to achieve that?
I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, no problem. Well, as I was saying, we've been working more than 10 years in the clinical research industry, and we've been working with a model, that has been kind of inherited from the language industry itself, which is a very, very old-fashioned and rigid system and a way of working. And I think it was 2024 that when we realized that this wasn't enough, this way of working wasn't actually working for this particular industry, because well, we work with every kind of materials, patient facing, specialist facing, but the most problematic ones are the patient facing materials. And then we realized that we were working in a system that wasn't putting the patient in the center. So with technology coming, especially with AI, because in the language industry, we've been working with technology for 20 years. We've been training large language models a long time ago already, you know, when machine translation started. So we've been feeding the engines, training them. So we were pretty used to that. But when the AI came in 2022, everything seems now that you needed to do it faster, better, you know. So in that race that is happening right now with AI, we felt that nobody cared about patients, really. We need to pull the protocols and the trials faster. And language became, in that race, just an operational element in the middle. And that's where we started, you know, being more conscious about that and saying, what's going on here? Because we started having discussions with regulatory authorities or with our requesters as clients when you are supposed to, for example, translate a consent form. And we have had lots of discussions where we were requested to use some terminology for Argentina, for example, which is the country we are based. And you say, most of the people in our team were born here, raised here, and have the linguistic knowledge of what happens here, plus we're all linguists. And we had discussions saying, hey, this is not going to be understood by patients here. And you see there's a reluctancy in changing things, and they tell you, well, this is the way this has been done for so many years, or this is the terminology base we have, and go stick to it. And what happened is that we felt that as linguists, we became trapped in a box, you know? And if you dare putting a foot outside the box, you were punished. So don't you dare making any other change in whatever document you have, even though it will improve patients' understanding, comprehension, and whatever, because it doesn't meet the regulatory standards. It doesn't meet the requester standards. And so we started feeling frustrated about that. That's
so
how
do you, just allow me a question. Do you, I understood that you mean since AI came into play in 2022, this is like became a problem, or was that a problem before already?
It was already a problem, but it was a problem that it was still not that big, in the sense that you had some room to negotiate some things. There was some room for, you know, proposing things, and with AI, this disappeared. There's
so
no
you're
way.
saying the client, when you say they, the clients, the industry, like the clinical research industry,
Yeah.
are your clients, and they basically say, hey, AI is much better than you, so do what AI does. Or
no, they are not acknowledging AI is better, but they are acknowledging that AI, because everyone wants to reduce costs and do it
It's
faster.
cheaper and faster.
yeah, and then they want you to be satisfied with the output and just the hook.
But
Yeah.
but wait a second, because they still require the same premium quality that we used to have, you know, 20 years ago, with with an activity that was almost craftsmanship, you know. It was we were like artisans somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not ignoring technology, or, you know, actually it has helped us a lot. It's not the same having a good terminology base right now with technology, the way we used to have it in the past in sheets, you know.
Yeah.
It really saves you time. It really helps in lots of secondary accessory activities that we need to perform our work. but hey, the final thing, the final product as a translation. So translation became commoditized, became like a rush service that we need to comply with so that we get things approved. That's what basically happened.
Yeah.
Claudia, would you like to share your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I was going to add to that even though machine translation does help with, for example, typing, in my particular case, I feel that it's very useful to avoid tendinitis, for example. You don't have to type as much. I know that it has some benefits, but the cognitive load is the same because we still have to process the text. We still have to think and correct and think the best way to express things, which is not usually the case with machine translation because sometimes it's awkward or it's not consistent with terminology. I mean, it has a lot of flaws. So the cognitive load is really not reduced. So we still have to know how to translate in order to do this.
And you don't just have to know how to translate these days. You're also an IT pro, you have to keep up with all the IT and the techniques. In the past days, you had, your Word file and that's it, or maybe your PowerPoint or whatever. But these days, we are even more specialized in like technical side of things.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, just in order to make it work with the machine translation, because they add that, I had to learn a lot of how to work with XLIF files in order to be able to work in Trados, because sometimes Trados Studio is way more efficient to my taste. I don't know, in order to work with the files that the client gives you, it generates a lot of extra work that you need to learn, and you need to learn fast because they need it. And everything is very fast paced and you have to be quick.
Yeah, and in like where I come from the communication side, for those who don't know me, I'm not a linguist like most of you are, like a trained linguist in first place. I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a nurse, and I come from that side. And I've seen the bad communication between doctors and patients very often, like the doctor language and the patient language. This is where I come from. And I had a similar discussion with a friend of mine who was thinking about a clinical trial. And then she's also like, what I read is so technical. It's so cold. And this is like the whole industry. And then I tried to explain why it is like that. And I see also when we come back to or go from the technical side to the people who work behind clinical trials, they are very much in their bubble. We are in our bubble. For us, it's very like all about patient facing and all about grammar and all about fluency and localization. And they are in theirs. And in their bubble, they live in medical terms, they live in medical language, they live in abbreviations and all this stuff. And often those people also come from doctor families. So they don't even know, like they are used to language even in private. And on the other hand, they are not used to the lay language, to the easy language. And that might be one reason why communication in healthcare is so difficult for patients who are not educated in medical or any science, actually. So yeah, that was just my take, why I think the communication in this sphere is difficult. And but I like to discuss this like publicity, so everybody can like get some food for thoughts. And I know that a lot of people here know exactly what I'm talking about. So I wonder, how do you guys, we can address the problem, of course, always, again and again. But what do you guys think we can actually really do to enhance the communication between your clients, our clients, and the patients who read the documents in the end?
Well, I think first of all, we need to talk to patients and ask them.
Yeah.
What is good for them. Well, there are a lot of, if you check, there's a lot of literature that you can like check online. Like I wrote those down, some of those down. There's a lot of documents by the Plain Language Action and Information Network. That's only in English. The Pan American Health Organization has some. The World Health Organization, the CDC, the NIHC in the United States. I mean, none of them tend to go towards, like, for example, short sentence or common vocabulary. In the case of Spanish, the use of active voice, the use of a pan-regional Spanish in the case of the United States because of all the different immigrants from different Spanish-speaking countries, clear explanations of medical terms, replacing technical terms or Latinate with everyday words or expressions. I mean, there are some guidelines around, but I do think that at the end of the day, since the ones that are going to receive that information are patients, we should ask patients.
Well, I would like to ask Sheila. She has written a comment in the chat. Sheila, do you wish to talk about it?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, when you were talking at the beginning about the material being too difficult to understand for patients, etc., I'm both a translator and a patient advocate, and I come across a lot of material that is created by the industry for the patient, so patient-facing material. And many times it is either reviewed by an advisory committee made of patients, or it goes through the patient community. If you are a patient advocate, you usually end up doing this. And I've been involved in many times in reviewing this material, and I have come across, obviously, saying, no, this is not the right term. I don't understand this. So then I write down the comments, and usually they come back to me, yes, you're right, and they modify. So as far as I know, I'm based in Italy, and I work in Europe. There is patient engagement, but maybe it's still limited. And the fact that there is AI, I think, yes, I totally understand what you're saying. And I do understand it. I use AI myself. I also teach English. So I use it to help me come up with ideas. I use machine translation. So, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. The point is that there isn't enough patient engagement, and that really doesn't depend so much on the translators as much as on the industry. It's always an issue about budget.
Right, that's the problem.
That's the thing, and that's what we need to change. And the thing is how to change it, because it's not only about talking to patients. I fully agree with that, but it's also about teaching, for example, doctors, because there's a relationship of asymmetry in the communication. If you want to engage patients, you need to gain their trust. How do you gain someone's trust? By, showing, not only, vomiting information and giving you, hey, this is all what's going to happen to you, and these are the good effects, the bad effects, this is how many times you have to come to a visit, this is what the procedures we're going to perform. It's about showing them that you care about them, understanding their emotional load, because we're talking about clinical research, not the healthcare system in itself right now. And in clinical research, you have to imagine that the patient that goes to a trial, it's either because that's their last chance, because I've been talking to patients that have been survivals, and they are still alive thanks to a clinical trial, but they were in hospice for 2-3 years with no hope. So imagine what is going around that person's head. So you need to understand that. But as Catherine was saying, that she was from the other side of the table as well, everyone is in their own bubble. So we also need to start training. I've been talking to people in the US And they were telling me that, and we were, like kind of brainstorming and kind of looking at medical programs. Hey, is there any university that in their medical programs include something like this? Because the thing is, if doctors that, like Catherine said, that run from families that have always been doctors, or you're in that space, you speak that jargon, you speak that language on its own, because the medical language, it's a special and unique language, as it is the legal, as it is our meta language as linguistic, as linguists. But the thing is, we need to start training that people and raising awareness with that people as well. Hey, look, there's another way of reaching out patients, because I think they don't even also know. There are some good doctors that they do what they can. I have been talking to some of them here in Argentina, but they tell you, we lack of resources. I don't know how to do it. I'm not a linguist. If you're talking to me about how to make it simpler, so perhaps we should also be addressing that part and saying, hey, look, because what happens right now is, for example, a doctor is explains something to a patient, and I've been talking to patients, and they tell you, I didn't understand what they were telling me. And you ask them, and why didn't you ask? Why didn't you mention that you didn't understand? It's because they are embarrassed. It's because they don't dare, because there's an asymmetry in the relationship, in that communicative situation. The doctor, the researcher, whoever, it's in a bigger, and a higher position. So like it or not, there's an asymmetry in the communication. So we need to try to make it balanced so that the patient is empowered as well, and is not afraid of asking questions and saying, hey, you know what? I didn't understand what you're telling me. Can you explain it in a different way? And explain it better. It doesn't mean, because that's another mistake. People believe that explain it clear means that you have to explain it like for a 5-year-old child. And it's not necessarily that. It's taking into account all this context. Where does this patient come from? What is happening to them? Are you giving a diagnosis or whatever to a imagine someone that receives a diagnostic of whatever. Catherine, you work with cancer patients. Hey, just the idea of receiving that news blows your mind. So
yeah, then you can actually stop the conversation, right? It's very interesting. Today I was at a doctor's appointment with one of my friends in the morning, and it was a delicate topic, I would say, not something life-threatening, but it was kind of embarrassing for her maybe, but also a very an emotional process, this appointment. And I watched it from my perspective as what I am, a medical communicator as well, and as well as a friend, of course. But I saw that we talked about topics, and they were only medication, like drug names, which were kind of complicated. And she completely lost it already. She was lost. We talked about 3 drugs, and she was already lost because she was like still hanging at the names, And then she was like, "What drug are we talking about?" And I realized again how easy it is to lose the patient in a conversation, and it doesn't even need to be a life-threatening fatal disease. So often for people who are going to the doctors, they are already nervous just by the thought of going to the doctor. And then I think being on the other side of the table, as you said, a nurse, a HCP, whatever, it is not always easy to again and again and again set yourself into the other perspective. And this is where I definitely think there is more education necessary. And then also another thing, doctors are often born into doctor families, and they are often expected to follow the line, even though they might not even like their job, or maybe not even people.
No.
It's another thing that came up in my head when I thought about why is the problem so extreme.
And also, I do think that they become accustomed to this whole other language that is the medical language, which, I mean, it's like learning a whole new language, because I read somewhere that statistically, the thing that med students self-report as one of the main difficulties while studying med is terminology.
Yeah,
So
right.
they get used to it, and they don't realize just how much it can get a patient lost when they explain with their vocabulary, with their knowledge, instead of like determinologizing, let's say, what they're trying to convey. And I mean, I've seen around actually some linguists that are now offering training for medical doctors and healthcare
Yeah.
professionals, because it's like a gap there that it needs to be bridged.
Yeah, right, Sheila. That just sits to what you just wrote into the chat. Would you like to? You wrote so many nice things. Would you like to voice them
No,
again?
okay. No, I was just saying, very short. I said researchers don't do PR, they do lab. Doctors don't have
Yeah.
time, which is where the patient organizations come in. And then talking about training, doctors and researchers don't have time for theory. So going back to what you said, Claudia, if there is some kind of training that we as linguists, together with the patient organizations, can come together and put them on the spot. Also, for example, I did the Eopati training, and we had to take a part of a leaflet or something and understand what was the difference between the old edition and the new edition, and then trying to convey complex concepts into lay language. Not easy. It's not even easy for a scientist who has always worked in academia to explain something to the general public.
Well, that is
It's
the
just not
problem.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
how does that work? So you are working with patient organizations,
Yes.
right? And how does that work? The communication, the training, as you said, between doctors.
It doesn't. I mean, this is just an idea. This is an
So you
idea,
haven't seen
right?
that in practice settings.
No, but I have been repeating this every time,
Yeah.
everywhere I go, because I see it myself. If you ever happen to go to a specialist, they bombard you, as you said, Catherine,
Yeah.
right? And then if you know a little bit about the disease, okay, but if you don't, and you've just been diagnosed with something, your mind is at, oh, well, okay, you have been diagnosed with.
Yes.
And everything after that is a blank slate.
Well, this is
so-
something that we are trying to do here. We're something that we're trying, and it's in our plan in 2025. We've been, knocking at doors on 2025, and this is something to work now on 2026. But we've been talking about, creating workshops on plain language, practical workshops, because as you say, Sheila, they don't care about the theory, they don't care about linguistic theories or whatever. They need practical tools to implement and to put into practice real quick. So we've been trying to reach hospitals, research sites. We even try to reach the Ministry of Health, because that should be in one conversation I had with Catherine. I asked her and I said, how do we change this? The change has to have from bottom to top, or from top to bottom. And we were discussing that, and we say, hey, we need policies. We need, the public sector to be involved to somehow help in this endeavor. So we've been also trying to reach that the Ministry of Health with a proposal, maybe for all the public hospitals or whatever, but we need to start doing something. We don't know if it's going to pay off or not, but at least we're trying to do it. That's one thing we believe we can do.
A great thing we all have in common. We have great networks with linguistic understanding, and just right now I'm thinking about starting a campaign on LinkedIn to make spread the awareness of the topic itself. And then also this is just what comes up right now. So we can we have to talk about that further, but then we could think about developing a simple language or easy language course in English. And I just gave a workshop to that topic in October, and where we really actively also worked on practical examples, how to put doctor language into lay language. And so there is something, I have something prepared already. So let's say we find some individuals here who would start creating an English medical language simplicity course, or whatever we want to call that. Then we can also get that to the individuals who would translate it into their language or use the tool to, in their own language, and then go with this one to, medical schools, nursing schools and stuff. Because I think and politics, but I'm actually not so positive that we will reach the people, or that they will be giving as Mark says, shite about our problems, because unfortunately social community nice things don't really get support from politics very often. Just where I was today, it was an obesity, like for adipositas patients, and the commune just cut off one of 2 dietitians from this clinic. And I'm like, all right, it's that clinic for a dietitian, but you see they cut and they cut and they cut. So we can't expect politicians to help us with this. And now we just have here someone else coming. So I think we should, out of this call, I will have notes, and then I might just work something out where we can start. We would need patient organizations, Sheila, who support this mission, of course. I mean, there are lots of great people who have the same aim, and the more people, the bigger the force. And if we share
Actually,
the same
for
resource.
example, we've been engaged here in Argentina with some patient organizations, and they were very eager to work together with us, for example, to start creating glossaries in simpler terms, for them. We have, for example, a community of patients with MS, and, they had on their own, without linguistic knowledge and whatever, they started, they tried, but the thing is that they didn't have the tools to do it. So it ended up in nothing. But when we started getting in touch, they say, hey, can we resume this? Can you help us with this? And this is part of something that we're going to try to work now on 2026. And as to your question, Sheila, as to the how was the outcome of reaching to the public sector, we at first we did have a positive response, but the problem is that when I reached out, it was in the middle of a midterm elections here, so nobody in the government sector would give anything to you or pay attention to whatever. And then it was so towards the end of the year, and then Christmas Eve and the New Year, blah blah blah, and now we're in the middle of summer holidays, which means that, everybody's going to be out until the end of February, March. So this is the part of the year in which we plan, but we don't execute anything because the system is down because of vacation. So I will let you know in 2026, but at least the first response was positive. They were interested. Okay. Then, of course, the public sector, we need to see if they were going to start, mentioning about, hey, we don't have money because Argentina is in a difficult economic situation. So sometimes they're going to tell, hey, we don't have money to invest on this, but who knows? At least we brought the topic to the table, which is good. It's the first, in my opinion.
And it's all about repetition. Sorry.
How about creating, I think, what am I trying to say here? Surveys. Would it be useful to create a survey that we can send out with the correct questions to the different stakeholders. And then we understand where everybody wants to go, because the patient community has a clear need. The point is that we need to show the value of this to the hospitals, to the doctors. And I think we need numbers and statistics and to understand what is the issue. And then we can start to get involved and show that by simplifying the language, by doing this, then you're also saving this, which is what always makes the world go round. I don't know. I'm thinking of a survey. Maybe we've already done it, Laura. I don't know. But I'm thinking that we need to gather information, and I think everything.
No,
right?
in order to support my proposal, what I did was some research on research papers. There were lots of research papers showing how language and good communication, effective communication, put less burden on the healthcare system that is already collapsed. And broken. So the fact that a patient can fully understand, really understand whatever is being said to them implies less readmissions, more adherence to treatments, and so on and so forth, which means that you take pressure on a system that is already at the brink of collapsing. So I supported my proposal on those research papers. There were some from the NHS, I guess, and I don't remember. I can look for them later on if you want. But no, I didn't take any survey, but it would be interesting.
I would say that this has a great potential to also get a lot of people to work on this together. And my mind is already planning a group and all the stuff. What was I going to say? Yeah, Mark, could you tell us more about your comment? I'm a sponsor of. Okay. Maybe you want to talk to us, Mark? I would love to listen to your voice.
Voice, would you?
Yes, I would that.
Okay, so I've been involved in, a lot of people know me as the person involved in clinical outcome assessments and linguistic validation, cognitive debriefing, and that kind of stuff. I almost used a rude word, but health communication is basically my core competence, and I've been doing it since the late 90s because I'm that old, and I just feel this conversation is marvelous. Really, it really is marvelous, because sometimes I feel like a preacher in the desert, John the Baptist, waiting for Jesus. you know.
Yeah, you're on the wrong side, man.
We all can relate to that.
Yeah, but we are quite a lot of people thinking like that. Yeah. I'm sure, to this event, we had almost 50 or even over 50 people who were interested in this event. Mm-hmm. So there are people, like-minded people.
I think I've got, so there are all of these, the problem I have is I work across a lot of sectors, from clinical phase to pharmacovigilance, and I also do medical devices and that kind of, just like what Laura, you were explaining about all kinds of different patient-facing documents. And I find that the clinical phase is a particular poverty. It's a poverty just in terms of the institutional awareness of poor communication. And I wrote an article about knowledge management, about the known knowns, the unknown knowns, and the unknown unknowns. So a lot of people don't know that they don't know that this is a problem. It takes a while to get your head around it. Mm. And so I've worked with a lot of CROs, and I have this big, if no Ferrante is here, she would tell me, but I'm sure Katrin figures this out about me as well. Once I start getting pissed off with a client, I don't work with them anymore, right? and once I see, I have no tolerance. I have no tolerance for CROs in particular who just don't care about the quality of the consent forms and that kind of thing. And I was doing a content validity study. The biggest CRO, the one whose name is difficult to pronounce and people don't know how to pronounce it. And I'm happy to stand up in court about this. Bring it on. Where we were seeing that the quality of the consent form was preventing people from signing up to the study. So it was the actual consent form that was the barrier to. So we took patients, we recruited the patients in the US, and they were going through step by step, and we were vetting them and screening them, and they were interested. They saw the consent form, which was 25 pages long, and sorry, I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
I'm not reading that. And there's another issue as well with.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about that. We as linguists are put in a box. We cannot. I mean, unless you decide to fire that client, as you say, I don't want to work with you anymore. It's like you don't have, and you're saying that the instrument that should be useful and because communication is about performing something. What we want to do with communication. If we don't, if it's just a checkbox to tick, as linguists, we have as translators, many times we see the original text. It doesn't make sense. It is ill-written, it has contradictions, it's not clear, you don't get an answer from the requester, and then you say that's what I was talking to Catherine, and I was saying we should think about language as being a design element. It should be thought in the very early stages of the design of the protocol. If you're going to have a multicentric trial in 20 countries, think about all the documents you need, consent forms, patient recruitment materials, whatever you name it. Think about in all these countries already from the beginning. We will save up time, money, and it will be more useful to the function we need to fulfill.
And people will trust more. And I mean, the question I have, right? Okay, so I'm not the only preacher in the desert. There's a few of us now. How is this just obvious to us? How is it? How is it not obvious to them? This company I had in mind, we were saying, look, this needs to be rewritten. I would do it for free. It would take me 8 hours. I'll just rewrite the consent form for free. They said no, because we've always done it like this, and we haven't had any complaints. But this is the point about patient empowerment as well, is people won't complain about it. Okay, and it gets even worse with electronic consent, because it becomes like terms and conditions on Facebook. It's like next sign, don't you sign. So that's the issue. Sorry, Catherine, I hijacked it.
No worries. You are, go on, because I'm just answering a question in the chat. Okay, then I will do it here. S. Lani, I'm sorry, I don't know how to address you otherwise, but thank you for your comment. And of course, it's completely fine if you have another meeting and you need to drop off. Let's stay in contact, and the summary of the outcomes, I can send it to you. If you drop me a DM on LinkedIn or send me an email, then I will be happy to share the summary. And I will address. I wanted to say that to all of you who are here and interested in staying in touch here. Send me a DM on LinkedIn, and I will create a group where we can talk about it and keep the conversation further. I'm also sure that there will be another MedTalk about that. I haven't had time, Sheila, to read your last comment, and Karin. Now, I would like to open the last 10 minutes, the stage for those who haven't been talking yet or who wanted to ask questions or send comments, because then I have to leave as well. So anybody here who would like to share thoughts or has questions? Oh, bye, Karin. I just see it now. Bye, Karin. Thanks for being here. All right, Sheila, you said something about crows.
Crows. Oh, I never thought about them as crows. Okay. No, I've worked with a lot of CROs, and while they are the extended arm of the pharma company, they do collaborate with patient advocates, but it's not a permanent partnership. It's very much project-based, and then once it's finished, that's it. There is no continuation. What I'm trying to say is that they could be engaged in this, but they only act as far as the pharma companies engage them with, because they obviously need the money. Universities are my best bet to get the engagement from the general public.
But Sheila, even if they needed the money, we were talking to Claudia yesterday about
Hey.
even if you weren't interested in patients, because you don't care about patients, if you put language and communication at the center and you involve, because basically you don't have trials if you don't have patients. Your patients are
That's true.
everything.
That's true.
So if
They
you
don't have
didn't
any
care about
income.
them and you cared about the money, you know, hey, you should be considering language as a central element, as much as you consider risk management, as much as you consider regulatory issues, and all the core elements in a clinical protocol. Language should be there, even if you didn't care about patients, as you said. Okay, this is a project. We need the money. We started. We finish it. Our job is done here. Even if you didn't care, it would be profitable for them to pay attention.
Yes, but
to
they have to. But they have to understand that, right? They're not used to thinking on their own feet. They act based on what the pharma company says. Hey, we have this. Go do this. The engagement, the work they have comes, I think, 95% from the industry. So I don't know. We would need one CRO that would listen to us and sees this as a value. That's what I'm thinking. Sorry, Mark. Go.
No, I just wanted. I think I know 2 CROs that would be interested in this, and there's all. In theory, everybody loves this idea, but in practice, you know, they just don't. They don't walk the walk. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And I mean, this, what I'm going to say is really blunt and controversial, and Katrin can edit it out. But a lot of these is being shifted over not to CROs, but to LSPs. And so LSPs that have zero experience with this area, with project managers that have zero experience in this area, are outsource or handling consent forms, not just the translation of it, but the actual writing of it, and medical writing in general. That blows my mind, because it's just going to get worse, you know, just to a tremendous extent.
Zero experience. You see the job vacancies, and the seniority is 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you receive quality controls, blah blah, and you say we're fighting with a wall here, because but wait a second, Mark, because then you have problems in the middle, and then in a middle late stage of the protocol you find a problem, watch out, because what happened here? We were supposed to have premium quality. This is putting the patients in danger. And you said, but you didn't care in the very early stage when I told you about this. Yeah. And now you care, because it puts, you know, a hold on the ending of the protocol. So yeah, I think that starting with the big ones, it won't be very likely, because they are reluctant, because they have legacy processes they don't want to change, as you say. They tell you it's been done like this for 20 years and nobody complained. But why is it that nobody complained? Because they don't have room to complain. Because even we as linguists working for them, if we want to complain, you don't have room. Either you like it or not. And if you don't like it, I have 1,000 more coming there that, will do the job.
Yeah.
And so probably starting with small ones that have another approach, maybe, the thing with smaller ones is that they are more agile in the processes as well. So they have more capacity to, adapt to the change and say, okay, maybe let's try this little change, which is, it's little, but it's significant, it's important, and say, hey, maybe we can start working like this. And then if we manage to get a nice pool of them, saying, okay, then showing to the others, hey, look what we've done. We have improved this. Catherine, I'm sorry.
No, it's completely fine. I was just thinking, I really need to go in like 5 minutes. What I want to say
We need to make another episode because
I was just going. Yes, I saw there's a lot of potential for this, and I will definitely plan another episode. What I want to focus on is not to blame and not to be like, oh, the bad big ones. We are all in the boat together, and some have their strength here and some have them there. We need to get them together, and we all need to get together and find a way to approach the people in their language as well. We only talk about patient language, but we need to talk the language of the business owners as well. And I would like to focus on understanding and working from there. With this said, for today, I thank you all for your contribution. I thank you for being here. It was an amazing talk, as I knew, without our guide, Laura. And yes, I will set up another call and let's dig into this conversation. As I said before, please message me on LinkedIn, and then we will build something here. I'm sure we can achieve something together.
Yeah, let's do it. I love it.
Awesome. I love that discussion.
And I will join the crusade with Mark because you're too deep.
I'm sorry.
I want to go with my tongues and my palms.
No, we need more of Catherine than me, to be honest.
No, we need everybody here. We need
a balance. We need a balance. That's what we need.
All right, guys, I will leave you. I can leave the room open if you want to keep talking, but I need to leave you.
Thank you.
Sheila, I see you in half an hour.
Bye.
Bye, Joe. Bye, Mark.